Few thoughts I want to share with you that I've been pondering. Um, in Matthew 7, in the Sermon on the Mount, verses 13 and 14 describe the pair of gates. It says, "Enter ye in at the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because small is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it." Two contrasts, easy enough to see, and many of us have probably grown up memorizing that verse and understanding the concept behind it, that few are going to choose to live righteously. In our study tonight in the auditorium, we talked about the foolishness of the gospel and how people did not necessarily want to accept that in Corinth. It was not believed to be, a sane man's approach to living. I mean, it was foolishness to them to believe in the resurrection. It was foolishness to them. Well, in today's society, there are many things that fit into the category of the broad way. What people in society today view as foolishness. We mentioned in our class tonight, as it relates to homosexuality. It's not trendy to be anti-homosexual, so to speak. And I say that from the standpoint, not from the standpoint of the person and caring about their soul, but from the standpoint of the lifestyle that they're living is wrong. And it's wrong to say that in today's society. Or to come out against and take a position on marriage and divorce and remarriage that is correct. Because, well, that hurts somebody. They can't live. They're going to be sad if they can't be with the person they want to be with. Well, if we look at the majority of positions that one could take that fit into the category of what people would accept, it fits into that category of the broad way, does it not? And where does that way lead to? It leads to destruction. Another thing that fits into that same category is a thought that I've been thinking about as it relates to the apostles and some of the things that they went through. And where do we find ourselves in our daily lives going through? In chapter 5 of Acts, Peter and John had just been before the magistrates, and they had been presenting their case before them. And at the tail end of the chapter, in verses 40 through 42, and to him they agreed, and when they had called the apostles and beaten them, they commanded that they should not speak the name of Jesus and let them go. Well, the easy thing to do in that case would have not been to speak Jesus. But we see that the apostles, or Peter and John here, departed from the presence of the council. And you know what they did? It's odd to think of this. They'd just been beaten. What did they do? They rejoiced. Okay, so translate that to us for a moment. What have we sacrificed today for Christ? In our blessed world of the many things that we have, what have we given up today or been inconvenienced for His sake? We certainly haven't been beaten. Do we consider ourselves to be imposed upon because we can't do what we want to do? Is it something that we think we're giving up, that in reality fits into the category of the broad way, that we feel like we're sacrificing? That would certainly go contrary to what the apostles here had done. They had given up being beaten. And this is Peter and John in this particular case, but we go over to the story of Paul and Silas. And they had been beaten and put into prison. And what were they doing? Singing and rejoicing. In the last part of the verse there, back in Acts 5, it mentions that they considered it They rejoiced that they were able to be counted worthy of suffering for Christ. No doubt, Paul and Silas considered it the same way that they had been done, had similarly been done. Paul in other places mentions that same thing. The point I want to make tonight is as we look at where we stand in our own lives and the lives of our friends and people that we try to encourage, do we live a life of considering that we're sacrificing something? Or do we truly sacrifice something for Christ? Are we giving ourselves over to Christ, or we think we're giving up something for Christ? That's the difference in attitude. If we truly feel that we are giving ourselves over to Christ, then we're following the narrow way. If we feel that we're sacrificing pleasures of the world or other things that may exist that would be in the category of the broad way that many people would consider to be completely acceptable and the way that they believe everyone should live, then we're headed down the broad way and headed toward destruction. Each of us has to make that decision. If you're not a Christian tonight, you've been presented with, both a broad and a narrow way, and you have a decision to make. If you're a member of God's body and a Christian, you have to consider it. Am I sacrificing for Christ? Or do I just think I am? Think about that while we stand and sing.